Hey, welcome back to episode 13. This is episode 13 of the drunkenly critically acclaimed, soon-to-be award-winning John Sawyer Show, live right here on Strong Island TV. If you are watching us on Facebook Live, we thank you. If you are listening to us on the TuneIn Radio app, we thank you. If you don't have the TuneIn Radio app but wish to get it, you can do so by downloading it for free on the App Store and or Google Play. Search Strong Island Radio in the search engine, and as long as you have us marked down as one of your favorites, you can listen to us on the go every single week. I am your host, John Sawyer, alongside the quite manly Mr. Evil Joe himself, Joe Herb. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good. We kick off the show tonight on a very sad note. Any fans of comedy who watch our program know that there has been a recent loss that has not only affected the comedic world, but the show business world in general. Don Rickles has passed away, Mr. Warmth, at 90 years old. He was a true legend and an icon when it came to his craft. Definitely an icon for the East Coast, being born and raised in Jackson Heights, Long Island, and living out in Brooklyn for a bit before going out to L.A. and joining the other Hollywood freaks out there. But, I can recall seeing him on for the first time. I saw him on the 2012 or 2011 Comedy Central Awards, when he was presented the Johnny Carson Award for Comedic Excellence. And I remember just watching his acceptance speech, which of course had some pieces from his material in it. Either that or he was just being naturally funny. And I remember just being impressed that this older man with, such sharp wit and great timing that made all the other comics on the show look like complete amateurs. So like most entertainers that I just discover, I go to YouTube afterwards to check out more of his work, and needless to say, I was quite impressed, from the Dean Martin roast to his many appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, the David Letterman Show, to his solo shows in Las Vegas. There's clips from that as well, to the times he tortured Frank Sinatra. It's funny, two of my favorite Don Rickles stories, which I'm going to mention here. I have three favorites, but we don't have time for three. They both involve Frank Sinatra. I remember hearing one where they're actually they both take place in restaurants, believe it or not. They were at a restaurant somewhere in Los Angeles, and Frank back then had a reputation for whenever he was in a foul mood, just acting out of anger. Any Frank Sinatra fans would notice. And he was in one of those moods where you couldn't even say hello to him without him blowing a fucking gasket and just going nuts. And they're at a restaurant together, and it's Frank, Don, Frank's wife, Don's wife, some of Frank's people, and I think Bob Newhart was there. And this waiter comes over with a glass bottle of ketchup. And all the waiter said was, would anyone like some ketchup? And apparently that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Frank, as he just stands up and in the middle of a nice, fancy, quiet restaurant, just throws this bottle of ketchup across the room and smashes. There's ketchup all over the wall. And Don goes, Frank, can you pass the ketchup? There's that, and another one where they weren't there together, but they happened to be in the same restaurant. Don's on a date with this girl, and he sees Frank sitting across the room, and the girl notices Frank. She goes, "Man, if you could get me to meet Frank, that would really make my night." So Don, to impress the lady, he goes over to Frank's table, and Frank goes, "Oh, hey, Bullethead." He called him Bullethead a lot, Don goes, "Hey, Frank," and this is all while the girl's in the bathroom, so she's not seeing him do any of this, but Don goes, "Frank, if you can do me a favor here, I got a very lovely-looking lady sitting at my table over there. If you could come over and, say hello and, strike up a quick little 5-minute conversation, that would really, do me good for the rest of the night." And Frank goes, "All right, no problem." So Frank finishes up his meal, and I guess he was down to the coffee at this point, and he gets up and walks over to Don's table, and he's like, "Don, how are you?" And Don looks up and goes, "Can't you see I'm eating, Frank? What the hell you doing over at my table?" But yeah,
he's probably the only one that could ever get away with doing
oh
that.
my God, yeah,
Maybe Dean Martin also.
yeah. I would hear,
But, yeah.
I would hear stories about, Frank and Don doing shows together. Like they would have this thing where like Don would randomly come out at different points and interrupt some of Frank's songs, and Don had the audacity to say to Frank, you're not talented. Your vocals, they're gone. Stand up, be a man, and hit somebody. And then of course, one of Frank's guys would be like, "Is that funny, Frank?"
You heard about Don Rickles stopping filming the show he was doing to go bother Frank Sinatra on the Tonight Show, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I believe we shared that video on our Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com/John Sawyer Show and look through some of the recent posts, it's up there. And it's definitely a classic moment in show business from probably one of the most classy, and I use that term lightly considering his material, but definitely a classy and iconic entertainer, and someone who will be deeply missed by true lovers of the art of comedy. So, Don Rickles, rest in peace.
And one thing I would suggest, it used to be on YouTube, I'm pretty sure it's still there, was HBO did a special on Don Rickles a few years ago called what was it?
Mr. Warmth and Don Rickles Project?
Yeah, that one.
That's on Netflix. I saw it the other night.
It's probably on Netflix now. It was on YouTube, so if you don't have Netflix, you can just go on YouTube and search for it. I would definitely recommend watching it if you're even like the slightest fan of Don Rickles.
Oh yeah, it's if you have an open mind, and if you don't get offended easily, which I'm sure you don't since you're watching our show, go give the documentary a watch. But yeah, rest in peace, Don Rickles. Moving on real quick to a certain story that I saw on Twitter. Somebody from CBS tweeted that Mauro Ranallo is unsure about signing a contract to continue his time as a commentator on SmackDown, to which my co-host over here quoted it with the hashtag #FireJBL. What's that all about?
Well, if you've been on Twitter, yeah, and you follow wrestling, especially a lot of wrestling fans like I do, the #FireJBL hashtag has become quite popular lately. What's going on is it's not that Mauro is unsure about signing his contract. Mauro Ranallo is still under contract for, I think, 2 years with WWE. Mm-hmm. At this point, it doesn't look like he's going to be coming back.
Why?
Mauro Ranallo has never been shy about talking about his mental health issues. I believe it was when he was 19 years old, he was diagnosed as bipolar, heavy on the depression side. Mm-hmm. He goes through some very severe bouts of depression, and recently went into one of those bouts of depression. You may have noticed he hasn't been on SmackDown in about a month now. Mm. The first week was supposed to have been due to the weather, which we did have a horrible blizzard that weekend when they were filming in Connecticut. Yeah. But he has not been back since then. The believed reason for why he has not been back has been the bullying and harassment from JBL.
He's still bullying guys?
Oh, yeah. If you watch on the network, they've done the show, I think they've 3 or 4 episodes of it now, Bring It to the Table, their roundtable discussion show. Not the WrestleMania episode, the episode before that. JBL was asked to talk about Mauro Ranallo on Twitter. Mauro Ranallo was awarded best announcer in combat sports by the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Right, because he's done plenty of stuff for DirecTV on their MMA networks.
Oh, yeah, he does boxing, too.
Yeah.
For Showtime, I believe it is. He was awarded best announcer. Mm-hmm. JBL went off on him for tweeting about it, for being proud of the fact that it was an internet poll that he won best announcer for. Wrestling Observer newsletter is a highly respected newsletter in MMA and wrestling.
Yeah.
To win an award from them, it's not an internet poll. It's generally a poll from people who know what they're talking about. And JBL has done nothing but bully Mauro Ranallo incessantly about these things. And apparently there's more that went on backstage that hasn't been talked about. But due to that, along with his battle with depression, it doesn't look like Mauro Ranallo will be back. And the big reason for it is JBL's attitude.
That's a shame that there's still guys in the business who feel the need to bully people,
Oh
out of
yeah,
their
and to do it to
positions,
someone who is admitted to having crippling mental health issues
Yeah.
is just reprehensible.
It's like when Vince Russo made fun of Jim Ross for having
when they did
face
the
problem.
Oklahoma character in
Yeah.
WCW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have heard Jim Cornette's reaction to that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
I've
God,
heard
the
all
boy
about
was
it.
on fire. Just a reminder that we now have Skype logged into our system. Not for this episode, but for future episodes, if you'd like to make a Skype call to us and have your face shown on the broadcast along with our two pretty faces, you can do so by looking up strongisland.com on the Skype app or simply using the call-in number 516-945-9099. Again, the number is 516-945-9099. But not tonight, because we have a very special guest on the hook right now. I can recall in 2007, 2008, when I was attending local Long Island indie shows on a regular basis, I would always go to VPW events whenever I can with my friends. And, this is when I was first starting to really, get a view on the independent wrestling scene, locally. And I recall seeing this one guy jacked out of his mind. He had this badass heel persona. I apparently took a liking to the bad guys. And, he could talk smack, but he could definitely back it up too. And, I've always considered him one of my favorite indie workers of all time. And I am beyond privileged and honored and quite humbled that he is on our show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a pro wrestler, seen several times on WWE and Impact Wrestling programming. I have to get that right so no one bitches at me.
I'm sure it was TNA when he was on it.
He is a graduate of the illustrious Team 3D Academy in Kissimmee, Florida. And he is a playwright and founder of Conquer Pro Wrestling's We Don't Play Fight, which will be doing a 4-night run at the upcoming Orlando Fringe Festival in Orlando, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Static. Jason.
Yep.
How you doing, buddy?
How's everything? Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's an honor to have you. Excuse me. Jason, where are you calling from?
Orlando, Florida, man.
Oh, of course. Has that been home for a long time? Because I remember you were out in Brooklyn for a while.
Yeah. It's been home for over seven years now.
Okay. What made you want to go out there? The weather?
No, Bubba and Devon, man.
Oh, okay. So you went out for the sole intention of just going to the school, because most New Yorkers end up going to Florida, whether it's for a long vacation or moving, because they're sick of the cold weather. But it's quite it's quite unique to know that you had other plans in mind. Jason, with our guests, with any guests we have from the wrestling business, we always like to start from the beginning. So, Jason, where were you born?
Brooklyn, New York.
Should have known.
Yeah, right.
When during your childhood, because I assume it was during your childhood, that you first got an interest in professional wrestling?
Yeah, I got to blame Mom for that one. I mean, it was 4 or 5 years old, sitting on the floor in front of the TV, watching Florida Championship Wrestling, some Gordon Soley, some WWF superstars, some NWA, some WCW Worldwide, and attending the matches, a couple AWA, NWA shows. Actually, I remember one of my first shows was it was an NWA show at the Nassau Coliseum. Saw Mean Mark Callis with the red boots and
nice.
Sting, Luger, and Flair, and the Road Warriors. So some good times, but I got to blame Mom for that one.
That's cool. Do you have any particular favorite moments from watching wrestling as a kid, or any stars back then that really stuck out to you as one of your favorites?
I mean, shit, man. There was a lot of them. I'm from the '80s, so you had Orndorff and Orton, and then you went to Mr. Perfect, Ultimate Warrior, Demolition, Benoit, Guerrero, Angle. Moving up. Just guys who could go and entertaining and just keep your interest and just make you love wrestling.
So
that's what I could think of.
So you were more into guys with personality, but at the same time were total workhorses in the ring.
Yeah, personality, workhorses, builds. I mean, I think seeing wrestlers that were jacked motivated me to start working out and to actually be like them. Definitely that was a factor.
That's cool. When did you start training?
Weight training, high school, pro wrestling. Started kind of late, 22, 23 years old, out of the LIWF Doghouse with Bobby Lombardi and Lathan Tower of Torture in Jamaica, Queens. That was my first stomping grounds.
We have a former Doghouse school attendee sitting right next to me right now.
Yeah, all of a month before I could stop affording the tuition.
Yeah. What was the training like there? Was it just as rough as people say it is, or?
I mean, I remember I couldn't walk for a week the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I think it was a test right there. In Jamaica, Queens, they had a small boxing ring in the back, and we had to do our bumps over there and some rolls and squats. And I remember one day I was with this other guy, that was training in the school, and Lathan goes in the back and goes, "Hey, we got the camera watching you guys, and I want 100 bumps." Just like we're running in place, and every 5 seconds we're counting out 1 to 5, and every number 5 we had to take the bump together and just go boom, boom. And it was it was what it is. But I mean, I took it as something that that was needed to be done to just pay your dues and go into the business.
How long did it take you training there to actually get your first match? Because, I assume they tested the hell out of you until they finally found out that, you were taking it serious, like most old school wrestling prospects.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird little route. I mean, at first, Lathan made me become a referee. I was probably the biggest referee you're going to see in the ring, I remember I was sweating so much, and holy crap! It's a workout going up and down every time. And I was reffing matches that had the Hit Squad and Homicide and Key and all
so
those
you must have
guys.
been all over the place.
Yeah, I was just reffing for a long time. And I took a little. I think my ride, the guy who I was with, he didn't go no more. I took a little curveball and I went to Gleason's for a while.
Okay.
And trained with guys, who like Nana and Damian Dragon and Stryker and Tim Arson, and all these different guys. We were over there for a while, and then I made a little curveball and went back to the Doghouse once I got some wheels. Now my first match was in February versus Justin Cage. It was a DQ, and I got a hit with a taped up plastic fork. It's a foreign object, brother. So it took a while. I believe when I was in Gleason's, I did a lovely botched up fireman's carry and snapped my ankle when my foot got caught in the canvas. So that gave, took some time off for the cast on. But then, went back to the Doghouse. Didn't have that many matches because right after that, Doghouse in Jamaica, Queens was closed down.
Now, that snapped ankle, was that the worst you've ever gotten injured in the ring, or was there something more painful coming your way?
Yeah, oh man, ruptured my patella tendon in Fall River, Massachusetts, against Justin Cage again, man. I got hurt again.
The guy's a bad luck charm, apparently.
Yeah, man. Well, I didn't get hurt with him the first time. The fireman's carry wasn't him, but the second time. I was with him, and it was a very, very slippery pool tarp canvas. And I remember taking just the first 2 minutes of the match. I took a shoulder tackle, and it was slippery. I just went to go take the bump, and I just went I felt like I was taking a bump on an ice rink, man. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this is bad. This is not good. And maybe a minute later, he gave me a head scissors, and I slipped, and I just popped my knee. And the next spot was for me to get up quick, and I couldn't get up, and I was just like, I rolled out of the ring, and it wasn't like they usually say fight through the pain, but
Right.
that one, my leg felt like I never been shot, but it felt like my leg got blown off, and I just you just got to roll. I rolled out, went down to the floor, plopped on a wood floor. The referee's counting real nice and slow, and I'm like, ref, you count to 100, man. I'm not getting up, So the match was a count out, and then maybe a couple years later, it was VPW. I think I was in what's that? Not Center Ridge, Deer Park. I was in Deer Park and ruptured my patella tendon. Not my patella. I'm sorry. What I got? Pectoral muscle. Ruptured that one, and torn pec. Getting clotheslined over the top rope backwards. My arm got caught in the rope. That was another 9 months after surgery. So I got a couple of surgeries under my belt.
How you feeling nowadays? Still hurting from those injuries, or do you feel refreshed?
Yeah, you're a wrestler. You're gonna just deal with the pain, man. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm sure oxycotin's your best friend, right?
Nah, not that, man.
You mentioned VPW. I said towards the beginning of the broadcast how I was a big fan of you and the character you put on out there. What brought the pieces together to make that gimmick? Was that just you performing at a higher notch, or were there some influences? Because I can definitely see some like Goodfellas in there, somewhat of a whole.
Yeah.
You coming out with the blazer on and all that. And I remember one time instinctively you used to do this bit in the ring where you would pick a random girl out of the crowd. And you would say, and you have a rose in your hand, and you'd be like, what lady wants to come in and have her night made? And at first you'd be pointing out who's not coming in, like, oh, you're too short, you're too fat, you look like your mother and father were siblings, this, blah, blah, blah. And then you would pick a random chick and bring her in. And then as you go to give her the rose, you pull away like, nah, you're not worth my time. And, of course, everybody would be offended, but I'd be watching like, holy crap, this is what a bad guy is supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
So what were the influences behind that? Not the bit, I'm talking the gimmick.
Gimmick, I think I was doing the rose gimmick. I think I had a little short stint. I moved to Kentucky, and I was in OVW. I went on my own dime, and I remember I did a couple of shows where I came from Kentucky to Long Island, and it was a combination of, I remember it was I think the Brooklyn Brawler and Rip Rogers had to do with that. And I remember I did a promo, and I think I was going by the best body in the business. That was one of the gimmicks I was doing. And I remember I did a promo backstage in front of Lombardi. And he's like, "Come on, man." He goes, "You're not the best body in the business, but what if you say, but if you say you're the best body in the business, so the ladies say." He goes, "I believe it." So that started out from that promo. I think I cut a promo on Cody Rhodes, and you got the light shining on you. I'm in the promo room, and the little red light on the outside saying "Silence, please." It was crazy, man. And I did that. So that gave the idea of the best body in the business, so the ladies say, was Brooklyn Brawler. It was the one that added that on. And then going back to Kentucky, and then Rip Rogers was, he's awesome, man. He's just like, I gotta get a rose, man. Put a rose in your mouth. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. And so then Rip was the one who I think, added the rose gimmick in there.
Have there ever been any instances where you majorly offended somebody to the point where shit went down after the shows? Because we had Von Schmidt on the other day, couple of weeks back, and with his whole German soldier gimmick, we definitely brought that up with him in case there were any people offended with the whole Nazi material. I definitely think, it would be quite obvious for anyone who ever watched you during those days with the whole best body gimmick that you sparked quite an outrage with some fans in the audience. Do you have any particular stories that you'd like to share?
No, I mean, nothing. I mean, there was none actually, so I can't share anything with you. I mean, I definitely ruffled a few feathers in audiences all over the place, and in crowds. But nothing afterwards that I would
no
say
Team
I had a
3D
problem
heat
with.
or anything.
No what?
No Dudley Boy heat, right? Oh, okay.
I didn't get any of that. But but now maybe I might get it now. Who knows? I mean, I had a little tutelage now for a couple of years over there, so I think I could piss people off even more now.
Oh. If you're not pissing people off, you're not making money.
Especially as a heel.
Exactly.
Exactly. During your run in VPW, do you have any favorite memories from working there?
I mean, I got a lot of memories, man. Even when you were introducing me tonight and you were talking about VPW, obviously you guys are in Long Island.
Yeah.
I mean, VPW, I mean, it was a place where I grew, and I remember, I can tell you from my first match, getting invited, getting lost to the building a couple of times, and, had never wrestled in Long Island. I wrestled, my first match was against Papa Don. I was a babyface. It was one of VPW's first shows, or one of my, I don't know if it was at the first show, but that was my first show. Maybe that was their second or third show in Center Reach at the VFW Hall, and just matches. Like that was one. And then when they had confidence in me and gave me the push, and I became their first champion. Which was great, and then just keep on going. I mean, I had a run, man. I mean, it was like over 700 or 800 days if you go on the website. I think I'm the longest reigning VPW champ, and
now
it was fun times, man.
Now, when you say that you were the longest running champ, there is legitimate proof that you were a legitimate champion and defending your belt, because there are certain guys on the independents out here who claim to be the longest reigning champion of whatever, and yet they work for a company that runs shows every 3 to 6 months, so they're barely defending their belt. So I know for a fact that that you are legit with what you say. Is there anything you'd like to say to those who are not legit and totally blowing smoke up everybody's, what?
Nah, man, I don't care. It's all about, I really don't give two craps about that.
All right.
All right. I don't care.
That was a topic brought up on the show a couple of weeks back. Figured might as well bring it up since I heard you say it.
Yeah.
What we're obviously speaking of VPW again, with the passing of guys like Tim Arson, the Zombie, and Joe So Delicious, that must have hit you pretty hard, right?
Yeah, it did. I mean, well, with Tim Arson, I mean, I trained with him in Gleason's. I remember he was like, I had a match with him, like one of my first ever practice matches, and he gave me a fireman's carry, put me up like an airplane spin, like a torture rack, and spun me around, gave me a TKO into a stun. I remember like a pain shooting up my neck. I couldn't move for like a minute. I'm like, holy crap! And and then like we'd be talking about our dreams, man. Just like walking in like out of Gleason's and walking to I think it was the F train. We were walking together. And talking about just times in general, and I worked him a couple of times in VPW. He was doing the zombie gimmick, and I got blasted with baby powder and blood capsules a million times from him. Thank you, Tim, for that one. And then he's a great guy, and it's kind of weird. Like sometimes I forget, that they're gone, and I'm like, I'm 38. Going to be 39 in June, and I'm like, yeah, you're still living, you're breathing, and you really like, wow, you're lucky, man. Every day when I get out of bed, when my 2 feet hit the ground, and this is shoot. I mean, I put my left foot and my right foot. When my left foot goes down, I say thank, and the right foot goes down, I say you. And I literally thank God every day for another day, waking up. And Joe too. I worked a couple of matches with Joe, and he was part of the Best Bodies Inc. group, and again, I had a lot of fun, and I remember getting changed in the back, and the center reach of VFW Hall, and that's like the little bar back there, and and then sometimes I see pictures, and I see them, I'm like, wow, they're gone. It's sad, and it's life, and unfortunately, but like, I don't know what else to say about that, but it was great times with both those guys, training with them, being on the same side, and being against them.
What are your? Do you have any stories on any of them that you'd like to share? Could be road stories, could be show stories, anything.
Wow. I think it was Joe. Joe was a funny story one time, and I remember we had a match, and I was training with the Dudley Boys, and And when you're at the Dudley Boys School, I mean, they beat the crap out of you in a fashion. I mean, of cardio conditioning drills. I mean, this is before you even lock up. And it doesn't matter that you had. I went to Team 3D with 8 years under my belt, and you were treated as if it was like day one. Like when it came to training, like you were going to get conditioned, like picking up a lot of weight training, a lot of like picking up like 150-pound dummies,
Right.
All crazy stuff. And I remember I came back to VPW, and I think I worked Joe in a match, and I remember like whatever the comeback was, whatever it was, like bump and feed 2-3 times, and like I remember like it was like a second or third bump, and he was supposed to get up again, and just like it's weird when you work guys outside of the school, they're not as conditioned as you, because you're doing things different than them. And I remember it was bump and feed like 3 times. It was bump feed, and then the third time, like he was done. And I'm like, all right, man, where is he? And he's on the floor. He's gasping. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, all right, well, what's the object of the match? Pin to win. So all right, let me just dive in there for the pin. And I hooked the leg, 1-2, he kicked out. But it was just some fun times. It was cool.
That's good.
But,
that's good, man. You mentioned the Team 3D Academy. When did you first go there? Because I know you had 8 years under your belt, but when was the first day at training? And do you remember it vividly?
Yeah, I remember it was 2009. It was during like I left like the week of Thanksgiving. I mean, I was talking to a friend. He's a worker named Pat Brink. He had a contract with WWE, but it was FCW, and he was one of the guys there. He moved there from Baltimore, Maryland, from MCW. He was big over there, and he kept on telling me like, "Come down." And I think I just had an FCW tryout, and they didn't take me. And that was funny. My FCW tryout, I had a match versus Darren Young in Tampa, and I remember talking to Bubba. And I was in Brooklyn still, and I told him, I said, I have an FCW tryout, and I said, see how that works. He's like, well, see how that works out, and whatever is going to happen, either you're going to get signed and come to Tampa, or if not, the plan was to go to Team 3D Academy. And so either way, you're Florida bound.
Right.
And I did not get signed. And I went down there. It was like Thanksgiving week. I got in a hotel called a Maple Leaf, Maple Leaf Motel, with crackheads and alcoholics, and it was right across the street, conveniently from the school, but because I didn't have a car at the time, so I just had to get out of the hotel, run across this big, busy ass highway, and then you're in the school. First day, it was just different. It was just like a lot of different. You're working with a gentleman. He's my coach, personal trainer. Name is Apache Dan Carr, who is the original creator of the American Gladiators. I mean, that guy, is insane. And and he'll push you to a place where you never thought you'd ever be physically before. You'll dread kind of going in there. He'll get you through it, and then you'll feel like you had an accomplishment afterwards. Like, wow, like I really did something. I remember I did a plank, and he put a 45-pound plate on my back, and I remember I was ready to give up, and he said to me, he goes, "Do it for someone you love." And he goes, "I don't care, dead or alive. Think of someone." So I thought of my grandmother, and I blasted out over 4 minutes. Like I was ready to pass out, and then and he just brought that out of me. So it was a great story that day.
What come time of graduation from the academy, you must have felt a real sense of accomplishment coming from a legitimate school like that. Is there any career advice that you received from either Bubba, Devon, or both Bubba and Devon that stick with you to this day?
Yeah, I mean, every day. I mean, I always say it all the time. I was telling him recently, I was with Bubba last week. I visited the school, and it was always that like, what would Bubba do moment. Like, I always think all the time, he had so many different lessons. I mean, every night you're there, you're training. As I say, if any wrestler who wants to go, I mean, you're in front of Bubba and Devon, like you're having a match in front of them. The guys have notebooks out. you're watching the match, his critiques of what's going on, and just like he's got so much knowledge coming out. Like you're not just having open ring, you're being critiqued. So just tons of lessons. I remember one time. I'll give you a story. I'll make you laugh on this one. So I remember the basic headlock, and you shoot the guy off, and take a tackle and a drop down, all that stuff. So I remember I had a headlock on the guy. Bubba just was tired of shooting guys off out of the headlock. So he's he gets out of his chair and he gets in the ring, and I was like, oh shit, what's going on? Gets in the ring and he's like, come on, man, stop with the shoot offs from the headlock. Stop. How real could it be? And he goes, all right. He goes, I'm gonna put you in a headlock. So he's huge, man. He puts me in a headlock and grasps me tight. He goes, all right, go. He goes, go, shoot me off now. So I'm like, I'm trying. I can't budge him. You know what I mean? He goes, all right. He goes, now put me in a headlock. And I put him in a headlock, and he goes, all right, grab tight now. And he goes, you got me? And I went, yeah. And then he goes, you ready? And I says, for what? And I was like, oh shit. And he picks me up and fucking Saito suplexes me on my back of my head.
Oh.
Oh man. And he looks at me and he's like, you okay? And I was like, yep. And he goes, learn something? I'm like, yep.
Wow.
So just stuff like that, is great, that you can't get anywhere else,
Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, this is the John Sawyer Show live on Strong Island TV. We have Jason Static on the line calling from Orlando, Florida. Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how you grew up and gravitated towards wrestlers that had a personality and a strong character, not even in the ring with just promo work and things like that. We just had WrestleMania pass this past week, and a lot of people have given their thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on The Undertaker's retirement?
Undertaker's retirement. Wow. I knew why the placement of the match, that it was the main event, and that main event was for him. And I mean, how much longer could you go? And I love him. I mean, watching him, and I just I don't know how else I don't think I was happy with how he went. He went against Reigns, and it was just I remember I was sitting in a wing house in Orlando, with a beer watching it, and it was just took the spear and 1, 2, 3, and it was over, and I was like, what? And the finish let you down. I mean, I think it could have been a better way. I don't know off the top of my head how. I wasn't happy with how he left, but I think there's a better way than what we saw that night.
Okay. Now you've kind of moved over to the theater side of things. You've written a play about professional wrestling. What was that made you think that professional wrestling could work well as a play?
Okay. What happened was, I'll tell you a little background of how give you a little rewind of how it happened. I had no dreams ever to do anything with theater, ever. I was losing a little buzz of the love for the business, and kind of a little bit lost the buzz and lost love for it, and I started writing little things, just little stories on paper, and I gave it to a playwright. I wrote a story on Christmas and fitness, and I gave it to a local playwright who was pretty known. His name is Robert Wynn Anderson, and he looked at it one day. I met him at Starbucks, and he's like, "You wrote this?" And I was like, "Yeah." No, this is a 3-page story. It wasn't a full play. And he didn't believe me that I actually wrote it. And then he invited me to Singing in the Rain auditions at the Garden Theater, which is a theater that was built in 1923.
Oh, wow.
And he goes to me one day and he goes, "You should see," because you're a wrestler. He goes, "There's a play called The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deedy." And he goes, "It's a play on pro wrestling." He goes, "You should look it up and see what you can think about it. You would enjoy it." So I looked on YouTube, and you're not going to see the full play, but I saw different clips of it. It was a Broadway play. It was award-winning Broadway play, And one thing that I saw that I didn't like, I mean, again, I didn't see the whole story, but I mean, what I didn't like was sometimes I was watching actors play wrestlers. So when they locked up or they body slammed or little things, I just said the physicality is not believable. And then I just told him, I says, give me about a week, a keyboard and a pot of coffee, and I'll write something different. And I wrote my own story of theater play, and I put it together, and I just said, simple. We're going to do a play on pro wrestling, which is something that is a passion since I was 4 or 5 years old, and we're going to make the actors act, and we're going to make the wrestlers wrestle. And that's why, and I've done it 3 times already, and it has worked. And that's why I think professional wrestling. Sorry for the long answer.
Oh no,
that's
fine.
why I believe pro wrestling and theater work together. But I've done it.
Now, do you see this as being like a next step in your life, as moving towards theater, or do you see yourself continuing with pro wrestling?
Okay. I mean, for years I've chased on working for the WWE. Or working for Impact Wrestling, or working for ROH, and the term "working for." I changed that. I'm 38 years old. I'm not trying to work for. If the opportunity comes where I work with them on what I am doing, I will work with them. But I'm not chasing to be on the Raw, SmackDown, or NXT roster anytime soon. Not that I don't love wrestling. I do. But what I have done in the theater world is unheard of. And if you look up anywhere, any historical thing, we broke the record. CPW Conquer Pro Wrestling's We Don't Play Fight is the first time ever historically that performing arts and pro wrestling has been put together, and in the fashion of what I have done. So I take full pride in making that production grow as high as it possibly can.
Do you have visions of making this like a traveling thing somewhere down the road? Like eventually bringing it back up to New York and perhaps maybe getting it on a Broadway show or something?
Yes. All yeses right there, without a doubt. Honestly, like, again, it's in 2 acts, and like Act 1 is a lot of theater involved, and Act 2 is the live pro wrestling show. It's a 90-minute play. Act 2 is all pro wrestling. I could take this show, travel all over the United States or even internationally, and take the best talent from any company and work with and have them work with me. And I mean, I could go to I don't know what's the top theater in Long Island, but I can go wherever you can fit a ring on, put a ring on stage, and work with. I'm just throwing out federations out there. Work with workers from VPW, NYWC, and any other Long Island group or New York group out there, and say, and put the match together. Take the top talent and put it with my play, and make it work.
Yeah, it's fantastic. How did the opening night go for We Don't Play Fight? Did it hit off well, or did it take a while for the public to understand what you were doing?
I mean, at first, in the beginning, like putting it out there, some people didn't know what it was. They thought it was a wrestling show being put in the theater. And it was like, it's just like, 6 or 7 matches, and, which it's not. Again, it's a 90-minute play with a 15-minute intermission with actors are acting and the wrestlers are wrestling. And you have about 5-6 matches. At first I had a fear, and the fear was, what if the wrestling fan who goes to this show is bored out of his mind during Act 1 and he starts chanting boring? Or what if the theater fan, sees Act 2 and sees someone get the crap kicked out of him and go, oh my God, like this is too violent. So I had a fear of that, like about those reactions. And when we had opening night, it was awesome, man. It was like the crowd stood quiet and they watched the play, and when it was time to laugh, they laughed. And when it was, and then Act 2 started, the matches started. It's like a live Monday Night Raw, and let me tell you, the theater crowd is. I mean, what they say sometimes it's an easy crowd, but I don't want to say easy. But I mean, they reacted to everything. They announced the referee. Your referee for tonight, Tom Matthews. The crowd went nuts. I was like, are you serious? You know? And then, the guy comes out, through the curtain. They are popping before the first lockup or bump. And I
Wow.
went, wow, like, this is amazing. I can't believe this. It was better than wrestling a show. If you were doing an indie show in front of kids, usually kids, are very easy to please.
But these were like adults
it was
reacting like that.
it was easier than that.
Huh.
And in the end, this is the best part, which I always say, is like in the end they have, in theater they have something called a curtain call. Not like the DX curtain call, but the curtain call.
Yeah.
And like all the wrestlers get in the ring, and there was 400 people in the audience, and they all stand up and give a standing ovation to the actors and wrestlers on the stage, and the wrestlers are like amazed, like they are baffled, like that, like 400 people are standing on their feet clapping for you. Now, if you go to an indie show, I mean, how many times are you gonna see every person stand and clap and go crazy at the end of your match? Very, very rare that will happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Also, I mean, guys were losing. Like, there was a guy called the Haitian Sensation, an entertaining guy, and he lost the match that he wrestled in. They were chanting his name as he was holding the back of his head, walking out of the match. How many times do you see the guy losing the match getting standing ovation? Not many times. And that's why I have to say that this is something special, that this production and I truly believe it, is connecting both worlds together. It's amazing. That's why, I mean, I feel, and I put the offer out there to any company, any indie company, or any company in general, even Impact Wrestling with the Owl, man. If you are, I'll take the Owl. I'll work with the Owl. If you want, like how the WWE has the WWE Universe, if you want to connect with a new crowd that has never been to a wrestling show, who don't know nothing about wrestling, maybe they don't want to even give wrestling a shot, but you want to connect with this crowd, mate, like go to the Conquer Pro Wrestling website on Facebook, hit me up, because you will be amazed on working together, how the fan base is in this type of atmosphere.
All right, well, give me a quick plot rundown of your show. What is We Don't Play Fight about?
We Don't Play Fight's about a blind wrestling promoter, kind of like the Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder type glasses, with the walking stick. He's getting it. This guy is like he used to be like an agent backstage, like one of the agents. Let's say a backstage of a major company, and he lost his vision and he lost his job, but he's a very respected person in the fashion of like wrestling psychology, and he gets a once in a lifetime 1 hour opportunity to put together a show on national television. He gets full control to sign the best underdog unsigned talent around and put together a Monday Night Raw, let's say. Now, I'm not saying it is Monday Night Raw, but he gets to put together. Imagine, anybody gets control of Monday Night Raw for one evening. It's not Vince and it's not his agents. It's Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo gets full control. You get to pick who you want to work on the show. You get to pick your talent and everything. And if it goes well and the ratings go up, and then his show gets put on the air full time, and that is the plot, let's say, of the story.
All right. You have a 4-night run coming up at the Orlando Fringe Fest in May, I believe. Tell us about that.
Orlando Fringe Festival. It is a 14-day theater festival. It's like a big. Imagine like a Prospect Park or Central Park. A lot of land, and around that land there's multiple theaters, and you pay to get into this place where you're on the land. There's food trucks, there's beer tents, and there's multiple theaters. And these people have 14 days. They get a program, and they get to check out whatever show they want. Some shows are outdoors, some shows are indoors. Some theaters are big, some theaters are small. Literally, the show starts. They open up the doors at like 12 noon, and they run each night to like midnight, even past midnight. Because actually, one of our shows, we have 4 shows in the 14 days. Our third show actually begins at midnight. So I don't know how many wrestling shows you know that start at midnight.
Yeah, it's very rare to hear that. It's OrlandoFringe.org is the website where you get more information on that. But I've been there last year because our first show was on June 4th. So I wanted to check out and promote that show last year, and I went there, and it is crazy. Just the amount of people that are there. They come in by the thousands, I would say.
10,000.
Oh, nice. Nice. So it's a big deal. Well, best of luck coming up on the Orlando Fringe Fest. You can see CPW We Don't Play Fight on May 20th, 23rd, 26th, and 28th. For more information, go to orlandofringe.org or simply look up CPW We Don't Play Fight on Facebook and Conquer PW on Twitter. Jason, we're about to wrap things up. Once again, we'd like to thank you sincerely for accepting the invitation and coming on our show. And I mean this as a shoot. You are welcome back on at any time. But before we wrap things up and bring the show to a close and take it to the finish, as we would say, we have one final question for you. If you could change anything in the wrestling business, what would it be?
Anything in the wrestling business, more teamwork within companies. Within locker rooms. A lot of times, sometimes I've seen throughout the years, especially as an indie wrestler, it's tough. Guys go and you're getting in your car, traveling 3 to 15 hours for a booking, and you're trying to get your stuff over and get yourself over. But I wish it was just a little bit more teamwork.
Right.
And from an indie to even major companies of contributing. I know everyone is kind of like a little bit afraid for their jobs, but the atmosphere is just working together more and get the product over. I wish there was just more of that.
So more teamwork and less selfishness?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, perfect. Joe, you got anything?
I just want to say best of luck to you on what you're doing right now. I know I've known quite a few people that have worked in the entertainment industry and on plays, TV, things like that. I know it is very difficult, so best of luck to you with your play.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Jason. Have a good night, man.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You can follow Jason on Twitter at the Jason Static. That is at the THE Jason Static. And you can check out CPW We Don't Play Fight at the upcoming Orlando Fringe Festival in Orlando, Florida on May 20th, 23rd, 26th, and 28th. For more information, you can go to Orlando Fringe, that's FRINGE, orlandofringe.org, or simply look up CPW We Don't Play Fight on Facebook and Conquer PW on Twitter. That's Conquer PW on Twitter. Thanks again to Jason Static for coming on the show tonight. Joe, you have any final words before we wrap up tonight's episode?
No, I think we did good tonight.
Well, all right.
Some great stories there about the Dudleys.
Oh, of course.
I mean, how can you not have a great story from the Dudleys?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of them. All right, and as always, thank you at home for watching. We'll be back next week. Actually, no, we'll be taking off for Easter.
Next week is Easter?
Yeah, next week is Easter.
Then, we're off next week.
All right.
Like 2 weeks.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. Happy Easter. Have a good week, and take care. Bye-bye.